Washington, D.C., April 14, 1865. President Abraham Lincoln watches a comedy from his theater box, smiling for the first time in years. The Civil War is over. The nation is beginning to heal. But in the shadows behind him, a figure with a gun moves closer. In seconds, everything will change. How did a day that began in triumph end in such tragedy? And what happens to a country when it loses the man who held it together? This is the story of Abraham Lincoln's final day. April 14th, 1865, dawns with golden light over the Capitol. For the first time in a long while, Abraham Lincoln wakes up in a world at peace, or at least, very close to it. Just 5 days earlier, on April 9th, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox, effectively ending the Civil War. The long nightmare of conflict is nearly over, and the Union has been saved. Lincoln, the 56-year-old 16th President of the United States, has just led the nation through its darkest hour. Recent triumphs buoy his spirit. He has been re-elected and delivered a second inaugural address calling for malice toward none and charity for all. Now, with victory at hand, he feels relief and cautious hope. If he only knew what was coming. That Good Friday morning, Lincoln is in an uncommonly cheerful mood. His usually furrowed brow is lighter. Even Mary notices how at ease he seems. Their eldest son, Robert, has returned safely from the war front, adding to their relief. Over breakfast, Lincoln shares tender moments with Mary and Robert. They talk of the future, rebuilding the nation, and perhaps even taking a long-awaited trip together. After years of sorrow and stress, including the loss of their son Willie 3 years prior, Lincoln dares to imagine happier times ahead. Lincoln allows himself to breathe, finally. But somewhere in the city, a man is already preparing a bullet. And this quiet morning, it will be his last. Later that morning, Lincoln meets with his cabinet. Around the table, he talks of reunifying the nation and shows remarkable generosity toward the South. There has been enough blood and sacrifice, he says. He's optimistic about the future, even mentioning a hopeful dream he had the night before. The cabinet sees a president eager to heal the country's wounds. General Grant stops by during the meeting, and Lincoln invites him and Mrs. Grant to Ford's Theater that night. Grant politely declines to visit family out of town. Others caution Lincoln against venturing out. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton warns of danger and begs him to stay home. Mary, still nursing a headache, suggests they rest instead. But Lincoln insists on going, craving an evening of normalcy and laughter after so much stress. By midday, the plan is set. The Lincolns will attend Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater. They ask Major Henry Rathbone and his fiancée Clara Harris to join them in the presidential box. As Lincoln's night out is arranged, across the city another plan is taking shape, one of deadly intent. Meanwhile, John Wilkes Booth, a 26-year-old actor and fanatical Confederate sympathizer, wakes on April 14th in 1865 with one purpose: to kill Abraham Lincoln. Early that afternoon, Booth learns that Lincoln will attend Ford's Theater that very evening. This is the chance he's been waiting for. He rushes to gather his band of co-conspirators. Booth lays out his plot. He will kill Lincoln at the theater, while two accomplices assassinate Vice President Andrew Johnson and Secretary of State William Seward at the same time. A coordinated triple strike to decapitate the Union government. His accomplices, Lewis Powell and George Atzerodt, agree to their assignments. The clock is ticking. Booth loads his pistol. In just a few hours, he intends to make history. The sun is setting, and the president is walking straight into a trap. That evening, Washington's gaslit streets are alive with excitement. Ford's Theater is packed for the comedy Our American Cousin. Abraham and Mary Lincoln arrive a bit late, and the play pauses as the crowd recognizes them. The moment they enter, the audience erupts in applause for the victorious president. Lincoln smiles and nods politely. He he and Mary make their way to the decorated presidential box above the stage, along with Major Rathbone and Clara Harris. The mood is joyful. Mary's headache has lifted, and she and Abraham even sit holding hands, a small, tender gesture. For the next 2 hours, Lincoln relaxes like any other theater goer, throwing his head back in laughter at the jokes. After so many years of war, this night must feel like a brief holiday from all his worries. Yet, behind the scenes, danger is moving ever closer. John Wilkes Booth arrives at the theater not long after the Lincolns. No one questions the popular actor's presence. He slips backstage, preparing for his moment. Outside, a horse is waiting for his getaway. During the intermission, Booth steals his nerves with a quick drink at a nearby saloon. Is Booth having second thoughts? Well, the policeman assigned to guard the president's box has also left his post for a drink, leaving Lincoln unprotected. Now the final act of the play is underway. Booth creeps up the narrow stairway toward the presidential box. He knows the lines by heart and waits for a loud laugh line as cover. He quietly wedges the door shut behind him and steps into the box, pistol drawn and dagger glinting at his side. Abraham Lincoln, absorbed in the performance, has no idea an assassin is standing just a few feet behind him. No one does. Booth raises the pistol. Just a few more steps, and history will change forever. A gunshot cracks through the theater, turning laughter into screams. It is around 10:15 p.m. John Wilkes Booth fires a bullet into the back of President Lincoln's head. Lincoln jerks forward. Mary Lincoln's joyous smile vanishes as she screams in horror. The president slumps in his chair, unconscious. Major Rathbone lunges at Booth, but the assassin slashes Rathbone's arm with his dagger, forcing him back. In one swift motion, Booth climbs over the rail of the box and leaps to the stage. His spur catches on the American flag draped over the balcony, and he crashes onto the stage, breaking his leg. Gritting through the pain, he stands and raises his knife. Sic semper tyrannis. Thus always to tyrants, he cries out to the stunned audience. For a frozen moment, no one believes what they have just seen. Then chaos erupts. Booth hobbles off stage and escapes out a side door to his horse, disappearing into the night. Inside the theater, pandemonium reigns. Bystanders rush to the president's box. A young army doctor pushes through and finds Lincoln barely breathing, blood trickling under his hair. Mary is sobbing and pleading for her husband to stay alive. The doctor knows the wound is likely fatal, but they desperately attempt to keep Lincoln alive. It's clear they must move him. As Lincoln is carefully carried out of the theater, an anguished cry goes up. The president has been shot. Meanwhile, that same night, Booth's accomplice has stabbed Secretary Seward in his home, and another conspirator tasked with killing Vice President Johnson lost his nerve. The coordinated plot to topple the government has largely failed, except for Booth's attack. Abraham Lincoln's limp body is carried across the street to a boarding house for urgent care. A crowd gathers outside, eyes wide with shock and tears. The nation holds its breath in collective prayer. Will Lincoln survive the night? He came to the theater for laughter. He leaves it clinging to life. And somewhere outside, Booth is already gone. Lincoln is carried into a small boarding house across the street and laid on a bed. The doctors present know almost immediately that the wound is fatal. There is nothing more they can do but make him comfortable and wait. Mary Lincoln is inconsolable, overwhelmed by shock and sorrow. She stays nearby, hysterical at times, praying for a miracle. Young Clara Harris, her dress stained with blood, tries to comfort the First Lady through her own tears. Meanwhile, cabinet members and officials gather in the cramped parlor and hall, their faces grim. Secretary of War Stanton takes charge of deploying soldiers to hunt for the assassin, but he also returns often to Lincoln's side, his stern demeanor melting into grief as the night wears on. Outside on 10th Street, hundreds of people have assembled by candlelight in the rainy darkness. They stand vigil in silence, hoping against hope that Lincoln will somehow survive. Hour by hour, the president's breathing grows more shallow. Those at his bedside can only watch, helpless. Just after 7:20 a.m. on April 15, 1865, Abraham Lincoln draws a final quiet breath and is still. A profound hush falls over the room. Now he belongs to the ages, Edwin Stanton says softly, tears in his eyes, marking the immense weight of the moment. The great liberator, the savior of the Union, is gone. Mary Lincoln, who was not in the room at that final instant, is told of her husband's passing and collapses in grief. Outside, the hushed crowd learns the devastating news, and a collective wail of mourning rises into the morning air. The last day of Abraham Lincoln's life has ended, and with it, a chapter of America's story. What will his loss mean for the reunited nation? In the days following Lincoln's death, the nation was overcome with grief. Celebration turned to mourning. As news spread, millions wept openly and church bells tolled across the land. Lincoln's body traveled home in a funeral train that stopped in city after city, allowing Americans to pay their respects. In death, Lincoln had become a martyr for unity and freedom. His tragic final day sealed his legacy. He would forever belong to the ages, an enduring symbol of hope for a healed nation. Because he didn't die in war, he died after it, but the bullet hit just as hard.